All right. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thanks. Really happy to be here. Let me just unpack a few things on this very first slide. Um, I work for Wiki Education, which occupies a strange space. We're not Wikimedia. We were part of Wikimedia. We spun off because we noticed that there were no manuals for Wikipedia and Wikidata. I guess there might be one if you speak Dutch. I heard that yesterday. But we try to fill that gap in teaching people how to start projects on Wikipedia, how to edit articles, how to create Wikidata items, how to query Wikidata. And so I run all these courses and develop training materials, all of which are free, and you can adapt them and change them and critique them and tell me about it. So that's kind of the space that we occupy. We mostly work with US institutions, but we're branching out all over the world, especially with Wikidata. So that's what we do. SWIB is new to me, so I'm really happy to be here. Thanks to the coordinators for accepting me and bringing me in. So this is a new audience, which I'm really excited about. And I just wanted to share this new curriculum that I put together to kind of answer these questions of like how do I develop a workflow using Wikidata. So what I'm going to cover is a little bit of background about how the course works, the curriculum and details about what I teach, and then some of the outcomes from the courses that I've run. And just like taking a step back, a lot of this can be universalized, so if you're not using Wikidata, a lot of these principles can be applied to your projects, which I hope everyone finds something relevant in this, even if you're not using Wikidata. Okay, so a little bit of background about the courses. I run two Wikidata courses. One is this project-based course that I'm going to tell you about, but the other one is a fundamentals course because we're all a very special group where we know a lot about linked data in this room. A lot of us know a lot about Wikidata, but most people don't, and that's easy to forget once you learn it. And if you've ever, or if you can like reach back into your memory about the first time you interacted with Wikidata, I'm sure it was a little confounding and confusing, and you probably wished that there was someone there to kind of guide you through the process. And so that's what this course speaks to. I usher people through it, I introduce them to items, they get really frustrated and it's very inconsistent and I just have to say be patient, but it's great. And so we started these courses in 2019. I've since worked with about 500 participants and we've run about 35 courses, which is great. No prior experience is necessary. They're 6 sessions long, an hour long each, so we're not taking up your entire life. There are training modules that kind of cover different parts of Wikidata, including the community and Sparkle, and it's not enough to do everything, but it's enough to get you started. And these are linked in the presentation, which you're welcome to check out. It's like a 3-hour commitment per session, so depending on the scheduling of the course, that's kind of how we kind of plan everything out. All meetings are virtual, and there's a Slack channel to supplement the meetings that we work on, so if you have questions, we can kind of address them that way. And I put a particular emphasis on integrating people into the Wikidata community. That's kind of central. Querying or Sparkle, manual editing, a bunch of tools which I'll cover in a bit, and then batch edits to kind of top everything off. So you can really make a lot of mistakes very quickly if you want. So that's the fundamental course. The outcomes of this course is that it works. People learn Wikidata and want to do things with it, which is super exciting. It seems to cover things that people are interested in. But there is one piece of feedback that we constantly got, which was, what do we do next? I want an advanced course. I want to keep going. How can we have more space to practice with tools? How do we convince stakeholders, bosses, executives to devote time and energy and staff to Wikidata projects? There's always a more complex question, whether it's about a query that you're trying to run, a tool that has been broken, a tool that you're dreaming up, a policy that you might want to change on Wikidata. And kind of documenting all of this in workflows, except for maybe the PCC pilot and this other example I'll share with you. It's rare to find entire workflows posted online that are universal enough for people to actually use. So that was a common question. So as I put this course together, some challenges that went through my brain are that when you get complex questions, there are different goals, there are different outcomes. Like some people just want metadata round tripping courses, which is an entire, you could spend years doing that. Metadata enrichment, modeling and schemas came up pretty frequently. Translating on Wikidata comes up a lot. A lot of requests for data visualization, querying, property creation. And so all of this, there's no way that could fit into like a 6-week long course. This is like a very involved full-time thing. But and Wikipedia work too. But I thought I would give it a try. And so I got together a group of people who I'd worked with in the past, and I said, send me some sample questions about what you'd be interested in this kind of course. And people wrote back, so translating labels, descriptions, and aliases. How do I highlight the work our researchers do in Scalia? And if you're not familiar with Scalia, it's a platform that gathers a lot of academic publication data and runs some queries automatically to show you insights about how they relate to funding, how they relate to institutions, how they relate to page counts and views. It's a very useful tool. A lot of questions about batch editing, a lot of hesitation around batch editing. How can I be precise with my batch edits? How can I implement this in a workflow that makes sense to a staff? How do I create a property? This just came up in the previous session. How do hierarchies work on Wikidata? Do they work on Wikidata sometimes? How do I develop visualizations in Wikidata and with the query service? How do you create a workflow? So these are real questions that I received, and then I thought, well, let's just try this course and see what happens. So in November, we piloted a new Wikidata curriculum. And the only requirement was that you had to bring your own data set to the course in order to participate. So it does assume some previous knowledge of Wikidata. And today we've run 2 of these courses with another 2 coming up. 25 people have participated so far and no one's stormed out. People seem to enjoy the experience very much. And sharing outcomes of these courses is important because Wikidata is only becoming more central to museums, libraries, and just across the internet. So that's one reason why I wanted to share these findings with you. So the way that the course plays out is similar to the other one, where it's a 6-session, hour-long, all virtual. This one, people can use the training modules, but I specifically got rid of them just because the questions are more specific than the content of the training modules. And so I thought live demos would be more appropriate. Aiming for a small, intimate kind of group of people, there are some wonderful resources that exist out there. LD4 runs wonderful meetings, but it's usually like 75, 100 people per meeting. And I wanted to keep it intimate. I wanted to get to know the people in the course. I wanted people to get to know each other and exchange ideas. This emphasis on the cohort learning together and teaching each other things, because the bounds of my expertise are limited. I only know what I know, but when we have a room full of people like here, you can all contribute to things and answer much more complex, more difficult questions together. I also invited everybody to meet with me one-on-one to answer very specific questions that might not relate to the rest of the group. And I kind of handpicked specific case studies and resources to complement the work that everyone was doing. So the meetings were loosely themed, but there was a huge emphasis on participant-driven sessions. So if somebody was an expert in something, I let them drive those meetings, I let them answer people's questions, and it was a nice way to kind of elevate people's expertise and share their challenges, their frustrations, their successes with Wikidata. The curriculum, which you're all welcome to look at, it's on a Wiki Education dashboard, which I'll show you in a second. Like I mentioned, some experience with Wikidata is assumed. The meetings were themed loosely around data modeling, query, Sparkle, data visualization, general Wikidata tools, batch editing, documentation, community integration. The tools, if you're curious, that we cover usually are Cradle, Tabernacle, Squid, like the visualization tools, mix and match. Source metadata, merging tools, graph builder, Wikidata, Wikipedia spreadsheet extension, which you could spend, hours, days, weeks of the year on. Pause, PetScan, Listeria. So it casts a wide net, and if you don't know what these tools are, they all do very specific, fascinating things. But everybody in these courses had questions about all these tools. So this was like part of the challenge, was unifying everything together. Batch editing tools included quick statements, open, refine, author, disambiguator. Wikibase, how and when you may want to use it. I found using Wikidata as an example worked great, and a lot of people were able to kind of understand the commitment to Wikibase on their own. And then ample time left for discussion, troubleshooting, individual questions, participant-led tutorials. This is the only other workflow that I've found that kind of is universalized for course participants. Most people seem to relate to this one pretty well, and I think James Held and Andrew Lee, if you're familiar with them, put this together along with some other editors. The link is right there at the bottom. You can access it from the slides, but I made it really small so it was hard to read. Let me just walk you through what it says. This table has these columns, and each column is a step in a workflow. The first row is a series of tools, links, useful resources, and below that are a series of notes that unpack all of these tools. I thought this was a great starting point. People can kind of pick and choose what they want from this list and ask questions about the things that they don't know. This list, or this flow, doesn't work for everybody. Everything is going to get a lot more specific, and obviously for most of us, Wikidata is just one stopping point in our own workflows and our own project work. So there's often like an outside component, another set of data, things that you have to link it to, all that good stuff. So this is only part of the picture, but I found this to be a good summation of the Wikidata specific resources. So we use this as a jumping off point and then kind of build our projects from there. And again, this is, I didn't put this together, it's on Wikidata, it's a great resource that not enough people know about. And it does kind of tend toward the GLAM sector. So if you're outside of that, there's a lot that might not apply, but it's good for images. So the impact of the course, I think this is cool. We report out our statistics to the Wikimedia Foundation. I think this is also just a very cool way to influence Wikidata and the data quality on Wikidata. This is a snapshot of our dashboard. And so with just 11 editors and 6 meetings together, some cool highlights are that we added over 11,000 references to Wikidata statements, which is a breath of fresh air. We created almost 18,000 statements. And we created over 1,000 new items, 1,500 items. And again, this is just like 6 weeks together, so it's not a lot of time, and these people go off and do more things. And even within the course, it's usually like 2 or 3 power editors and then some other people who are timid but excited. So it's nice to have these numbers as benchmarks, and they add up. All right, so that's the course. We've covered the curriculum, some specifics. Taking a step back, why is this important to any of us? Structured courses with live instructors remain rare. There are a lot of video resources, there's a lot of slide-based resources, there's a lot of lecture-based things that we can participate in, but I received feedback from the participants that having like the one-on-ones and a small community to work with was really, really helpful. And it created a nice safe space to make mistakes, to exchange ideas, to support each other. And then often people have similar problems even if their projects are vastly different. So it's nice to kind of commiserate about that. Without continued work, projects stop. So people take the course, if they don't continue, or if there's not like a lot of pressure or a lot of incentive to continue, they won't. So creating a space for sharing allows for more support, exchange of ideas, recommendations for best practices. And since there's so many moving parts with workflows, if one person leaves, I don't know if anyone has experienced this, projects can slow down or stop outright. People are super knowledgeable, but the smart people always get pulled in different directions. And so creating a little bit of redundancy, creating better documentation, creating more pathways to learn about how Wikidata works is important. And then, like I just mentioned, the impact on Wikidata is huge for this kind of coursework. And like I said, people keep going and keep editing with Wikidata. And it's really just cool to see how it influences the community and improves overall data quality. And I think people on Wikidata are very pleased with it always. And then the impact on local collections. So if you're enriching your local collection with Wikidata's data, that can have a huge impact and fill in a lot of gaps for a lot of different projects. This is also significant because new tools and systems will continue to appear. So having courses, having communities, coordinating across different projects will allow us to kind of consume these new updates a little bit faster and teach each other things. And there's always going to be newcomers to Wikidata, always newcomers to your staff and people you have to teach as they come on board. And so having kind of like an eye for instruction, I think is very helpful as you do your work. And building workflows are complicated. There's no manual for any of this. There's a million different ways to do things, and you will get pulled in different directions, and you'll start a project thinking it will end in a certain spot, but it'll take you somewhere completely different. So I think it's good to have people around to help you through it. Some specific notes about course feedback. This current course that I'm running is that people still want more. They want more time to work on everything. They want sustained contact. Like I said, projects change and everyone always has questions the minute something changes. More mentors, more coaches, other practitioners, and like the colleagues at University of Washington, that's great that there's a lot of support for linked data work, but I think that's rare. And so it's always nice to have advocates in the field and more case studies to point to show the impact of linked data work. Having more of those tells a better story and can kind of convince different ears of different things, which is great. I also admit that there's no one-size-fits-all course, and that's okay. There's always something more, something that's not included, something that I don't spend enough time on, and that's just the nature of the diversity of all the things that we all do, and that's great to admit, and I think that's very exciting. It's a wonderful challenge to have. And then there's always, stuff that I don't know and stuff that I need to learn, and more people I can connect others to, so that's great to think about. Content that was review for some people, so people who know a certain corner of Wikidata really, really well, actually said that it was helpful and not annoying to review the content and to get more comfortable with their area of expertise. So even for those people who are already experts at, like, say, Sparkle, really appreciated the questions that people had who were learning about Sparkle for the first time, or for people who were new to OpenRefine. The experts with OpenRefine often had different ways of doing similar things. So it was just a nice way to kind of emphasize areas of expertise and share more information. And then the number one piece of feedback I got was the size was particularly helpful. Having a small group, I mentioned this earlier, just repeating it for emphasis. There are a lot of different offerings for Wikidata. A lot of the trainings you'll find are free, but the combination of size and live sessions seems to still be pretty rare and worked out very well for a lot of different participants, which is great. Quick note about my pedagogical style, just because I think that's worth spending a second on. There's a lot of different ways to teach, a lot of different kinds of instruction that you can experience. I love having the participants drive the session, so like pursuing their line of thought and their questions until they're satisfied, I think is really helpful. It also makes people feel included, which is a great feeling to have in a course, I think. Question-based and action-based, so demos whenever you can, walking people through things step by step, instead of talking about the thing, show the thing. And also, again, pursuing questions rather than just guessing what people want to hear. Open pacing, so if we need to slow things down and spend more time on quick statement syntax, we can do that. And if we need to speed things up to get to like a broader overview of how everything fits together, we could do that too. So a lot of flexibility and leaving room for conversation to develop. The curriculum that I use really emphasizes editing, so a lot of people are shy about making edits to Wikidata, especially in their areas of expertise, and I say you should edit. That gives a better sense of ownership. It really encourages you to become part of the community and become less afraid of the community, or maybe intimidated, because then you are part of the community the minute you start editing. And that's just a central element to all the courses that I run. Also, assume that Wikidata is right and wrong. There's always a skeptic in the group who either doesn't like Wikipedia or Wikidata, and they're right to point out that data is wildly inconsistent, and that's a problem, but great news, you can just fix it and go in and edit it. So I really enjoy having those people in my courses because they're also right. But I think it's also worth celebrating the fact that Wikidata, the data is pretty good in a lot of ways, and it's a very ambitious project, and I think that's worth recognizing too. So I like to use that as a frame for my teaching style. And then what comes next? So running these courses, what would I like to do moving forward? What am I taking away from all of this? What might you take away from this? I want to just keep building out this curriculum, make it more detailed, make it address more needs and be more responsive to different kinds of projects that are developing, different workflows that people bring to me, filling in those blanks a little bit better. For popular topics, it'd be great to create training modules and translate those training modules across many different languages. I know I just was kind of saying there's a lot of slide-based things out there, but there could always be more, and it's nice to have those and work at your own pace. I also acknowledge that like the big drawback of live sessions, I think we can all agree with this, like things like these conferences, is they take time. You have to go to them, you have to plan around them, and so having options is a nice thing, where if you want to work through slides, work through slides. If you'd rather attend something in person, fantastic. I think that's wonderful. Documenting everything, that takes time. It's always the last step, which is usually the most important step, because like if I suddenly decide to change careers and don't teach anymore, it'd be great if I could pass everything off to somebody else. And I think we can all agree that we've received not the best documentation in projects before, and would like it to always be better. So I want to share what I've been learning from all of this. It would be great to teach with Wikidata. I was speaking with Edwards yesterday, who uses Wikidata in the classroom, and I think that's wonderful. I don't know if anyone else works with students on a regular basis, but if not students, then staff. Having more opportunities to use Wikidata as a place for learning, I think, is super helpful, and a great introduction to linked data. It's a very practical community and experience. This is a fun one because it's what I'm doing, is share findings at conferences to encourage more Wikidata work and convince a broader audience to let their staff run Wikidata projects. If all these people are doing it, then more people should do it. So I'm going to keep doing this. And that's all I've got for you. So thank you so much. And I think we have time for questions.
Thanks, Will. Indeed, we have time for questions.
I've exhausted them.
We've done a number of student projects, and the students usually come in and they're, information school students, so they know something about linked data, but not anything about Wikidata. Would you think that asking students to go through this course would be like appropriate for them, or do you think it would be too big of an ask?
My gut says, yeah, why not? But I don't know if every student would be as interested in Wikidata as the curriculum thinks they would be. I am very encouraging of people learning more about Wikidata as they start to edit. But I think it kind of depends on the course and the assignments. But email me and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I will. Thanks.
Yeah. I should say everyone should email me if you have questions, or if you want to participate, let me know. It'd be great to work with any number of you in these courses.
I'm interested in the technical details about Wikidata. So my question is, did you discuss or work on things like running your own Wikidata instance in your curriculum?
So that hasn't come up yet.
Okay.
And there's a lot I don't know about that particular area, but I would love to have those conversations at some point and learn more. Wikibase, yes, but not like a full instance of Wikidata.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? I do have one.
Oh.
So what's the single most question, that comes up that you're asked?
Oh, the most popular question. That's a good one. I think what comes up a lot is actually about data modeling and people wondering like which properties to use and when and how and why. And that's complicated. It's really complicated. And everybody from different disciplines or different, like flavors of librarians that come through the course, metadata experts, think it should be one way. And it's usually a little bit different on Wikidata. And sometimes that's explainable and fun and easy to learn. And other times it's very frustrating and ambiguous. And so that always generates good conversation. But yeah, great question.
Thanks. Yeah. So thanks again. Well, I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of emails. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.